Hey, what's up guys, Control back for part 3 of my Witchwood card review from a wild perspective. Again, I like to preface every single one of these with a little bit of a blurb about this being for a wild. So some of these cards you're going to hear guys like Crip and Trump go over, and they're going to say really cool things about the cards, whereas I'm just going to give them 2 thumbs down and dismiss them because they're not going to be viable within a competitive wild metagame. And I'm going to be reviewing all the cards from a competitive perspective. So whether these cards could recreate old archetypes that don't really exist anymore or are popular, could innovate new archetypes or fit existing ones, is basically how I'm going to be just evaluating these cards, whether they're good enough to actually see play in wild rank ladder at legend ranks and do well. Anyways, right off the bat, Duskhaven Hunter. So this is a 3-mana 2/5, it's a hunter card, and it reads stealth. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. This card, as a 5/2, could potentially see play in Aggro Hunter as like a budget option if you open it. But main decking this, not a good idea. If it had the Beast tag, this card would be fucking nuts. Because you could pair it with Houndmaster and Aggro Hunter and that'd be really good. Unfortunately, it's not a beast, so you lose a lot of synergy with stuff like Kill Command. And I don't think Duskhaven Hunter is going to be good enough. If it was always a 5/2 with stealth, I could see like an argument for it. I'd probably try it out. But the fact that you have to play it as a 2/5 sometimes, and you can't have it as a 2/5 that you strap Houndmaster on, makes this card for me 2 thumbs down. Not going to see play. Next up, Toxmonger, 4-mana 2/4. Whenever you play a 1-cost minion, give it poisonous. Also a hunter card. This one is really, really cool. So what you can think about it right off the bat, Stones of Support. Go in, charge, poisonous, which is really cool. Old Patches, if you do that. Poisonous, charge, and that's probably going to be when this card is most relevant. You can think about Fiery Bat as well. That's another card that works really well with this, is giving a minion with like a death rattle, deal damage to another minion. Poisonous, so it's really strong for that reason. I see Toxmonger having synergy with some cards that are coming up in a little bit, so I'll talk about it a little bit more when we hit Dire Frenzy, I believe the card's name is. That's when we'll talk about Toxmonger a little bit more because they could be played in a deck together. That being said, Toxmonger as a card by itself, it's a 4-mana 2/4 that requires synergy, so not very powerful and doesn't fit any archetypes or really redefine anything. So for me, Toxmonger is going to be 2 thumbs down. But it's cool card design, so I like it for that reason. And its card art's kind of sweet. Next up, Witchwood Grizzly, a 5-mana 3/12. Neutral card, and it's a beast. Taunt, Battle Cry, lose 1 health for each card in your opponent's hand. Witchwood Grizzly is looking relatively thick. Yeah, thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. Holy shit, this card is big. Really good against aggro. Holy shit. Especially if you don't have too big of a hand. It's also really balanced because of the effect. And it's a huge counter to Dirty Rat too. So, really, really good against Dirty Rat. Although, if your opponent's playing Dirty Rat, this card probably doesn't target the exact same kind of idea your opponent's deck's going for. But still, it's just really good from Dirty Rat because the battle card doesn't go off. So it's super strong for that reason. The deck that I would just right away think about running this in is maybe like a Reno list as an anti-aggro tech, or Taunt Druid. Taunt Druid could use big taunts and bring them back with Hydronics. Only issue with this is a battle cry card, not a death rattle card. Death rattle cards come back when this off, whereas taunt cards only come back from Hydronics. So in Taunt Druid, what you end up doing a lot of times is running cards like Death Lord, Sludge Vulture, because they're both taunts and they're death rattles. So they're super good. But unfortunately, this card doesn't have Death Rattle. That being said, though, it could still be good, and that transitions us super well into the next card, Witching Hour. It's a Druid card. 3 mana, rare, summon a random friendly beast to die this game. So, Witchwood Grizzly is a beast. And it's a really good res because the battle card doesn't go off. So you pay 3 mana, and you get your 3/12 taunt again. And again, another minion, 4 Hydronics to resurrect. Another really good card, actually, for it to resurrect. So, it's a combo that's pretty straightforward and obvious, but it's a good combo nonetheless. Witching Hour is also really cool for just Beast Druid in general. One thing that I like to do is actually go Quest Druid in Wild and play like Menagerie Ward and Strengthorn Tiger, get the quest done, play Tyrantus and all that kind of fun stuff with Medivh getting big spells off because you run UI in the deck. Because after you UI, all the minions you draw if you played Barnabas are 0 costing. So Witching Hour could be interesting in that deck. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but that's a home potentially. Or just, you know, straight Beast Druid. But I see Witching Hour probably, if it's going to be played, will be played in a Taunt Druid deck for that reason with Witchwood Grizzly. That being said, though, I don't think it's really powerful enough to really make the cut. So for me, Witching Hour is probably going to be 2 thumbs down. I didn't do the thumb up or down review for Witchwood Grizzly. I'm going to give it 1 thumb up. I'm kind of optimistic about Witchwood Grizzly. I think it's a strong card. Sort of the bad track there. Next up is Cathedral Gargoyle. 2 mana 2/2 Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, become a better shielded mini bot. So you gain Taunt and Divine Shield. Only issue is this is another one of those holding a dragon cards. Another one that we can look back on. I actually forget the card's name because it's that irrelevant. It's a 3 mana Paladin card. Let me just get the name of it up real quick. Its name is Nightbane Templar, which is a 3 mana 2/3. If you're holding a dragon, some 2/1/1 whelps. And the issue is that Dragon Paladin is not very strong, even though it does have a lot of synergy. So you can look at stuff. Let's find the exact card's name. Go to wild cards here. I'm actually just looking at my collection right now to find out what cards it is. I believe it was called Dragon Consort. Yeah, Battlecry, the next dragon you play costs 2 less. So we have that in wild as well for Dragon Synergy for Dragon Paladin. That being said, though, Dragon Paladin itself is not very good. And Cathedral Gargoyle, not looking too good for me. You pull it from Called Arms. It's a 2/2, man. It doesn't have Divine Shield or Taunt attached to it. It's a Battlecry. Cathedral Gargoyle might make a splash in Standard, but in Wild, I think it's 2 thumbs down. Just play Minibot, man. They usually trade into it anyways. Who cares? Taunt's irrelevant. Taunt's got Unrighteous Protector because it's a 1/1. Annoying. Cathedral Gargoyle. You're out of here, buddy. Next up is Woodcutter's Axe. 2 mana 2/2. It's a warrior weapon. It's a 2-drop. Holy shit, Blizzard did it. The card, the War Axe, got nerfed for. Death Threat will give give +2/1 and give +2/1 to a random friendly rush minion. That was really tough. It's also common. So this weapon is a War Axe with 1 less attack and a Death Rattle. So the question is whether you're going to be running rush minions or not in Pirate Warrior. The answer is more than likely just going to be no. So for me, I think Woodcutter's Axe is an interesting card because it fits a 2-drop slot as a weapon and allows you to curve out with like Celestia Deckhand, Woodcutter's Axe into Bloodsail Cultist to get the upgrade off. But I don't think you're going to be running stuff like Militia Commander, a rush minion for Warrior, in Pirate Warrior. That being said, though, in a more mid-rangey Warrior, this could be good in like a Temple Warrior deck, because then you could give your Militia Commander +2/1, and then it would be a 7/6 right off the bat, which would be insane. That being said, though, that 7/6 can't go face. Obviously, it needs to trade unless you've already attacked. With the rush minion, you waited a turn, then you go face with it, and then Woodcutter's Axe would work with that. But I don't think this card's really that good, and I think Curseblade is honestly just straight up better in Pirate Warrior, so I don't think you'd ever really want to be running Woodcutter's Axe. Curseblade is an interesting talking point because the downsides of the card really get brought up a lot, but a lot of times they're just not relevant because you don't care about your life total in Pirate Warrior. Just doesn't matter until you're dead. Life total is a resource, but it doesn't matter until you're dead, right? You can win with 1 health with Pirate Warrior and just get there because of Curseblade, and it just won't be relevant. So I would say the Woodcutter's Axe for me is 1 thumb down because maybe Temple Warrior pop up and maybe this card will be good in it. Still probably just want to be running King's Defender though, because you should be running Taunts and Temple Warrior. But Woodcutter's Axe, maybe if a rush-oriented Warrior pops up, could be okay. So I'll give it a pass. Next up, Deadly Arsenal. 6 mana Epic Warrior spell. Reveal a weapon from your deck. Deal its attack to all minions. So this alludes to you playing a double Gorehell Control Warrior deck. This actually isn't that bad because it's fairly consistent. This could actually replace Brawl in some decks. Not all, because Brawl has the added benefit of dealing with like really big minions. But if you want to just say, hey, I'm only running Gorehells in my Control Warrior deck, then Deadly Arsenal will consistently deal 7 damage to all minions, which is pretty good. But if you think about it like just running Deathbites as well, I mean, that's a consistent 4 damage and a 6 mana Flame Strike, right? Which is pretty strong. Obviously, it's to your minions too, but it's still quite good in that case. So Control Warrior, you might want to slot this in. That being said, I think Brawl is just better, especially for the mana cost and the fact that it deals with giants. But Deadly Arsenal is an interesting card that you can run if you do decide to go for a more classic double Gorehells Control Warrior build. It's kind of my initial thoughts on it. That being said, though, Gonna get 2 thumbs down for me because I don't think it's competitively viable right now. And I don't think it will be post-expansion. But eventually maybe like a 10-mana weapon comes out and comes really good. Then maybe you'll run Deadly Arsenal. Who knows? It's one of those things. It's a really good card, but just doesn't really work right now. Next up, Duskfallen Aviana. I've got a lot of questions about this. So myself, I'm not even really too sure about it, how this card works. So it's a 5-mana 3/7, and it's a Druid Legendary. On each player's turn, the first card played costs 0. So does this this has to count as the first card played on your turn, right? Because you couldn't just go Duskfallen or Aviana into UI. So it gives the first card to your opponent, I assume. Like, there's no way Blizzard would print a 5-mana card that you can just go with UI, right? Turn 5, just play Duskfallen Aviana, UI, and win the game. Not going to work like that. So it means that you let your opponent play the 0-mana card first. Which right off the bat just sounds terrible to me. Like, that does not sound good at all. 3/7 Satellite though means it's kind of tough to remove, so maybe they're an aggro deck, they can't deal with it, they play, or like exhausted of resources and it's fine, but I just don't see Duskfallen Aviana being good when we have regular Aviana and Wild. You don't need this for any combo that you're trying to pull off. You can just go like Aviana Kun, Mali, double Faceless, win the game with Mali Druid. So personally for me, Duskfallen Aviana is 2 thumbs down. I'll experiment with it, but yeah, it's a weird card because it just lets your opponent play a 0-mana card first. So I don't even get why you would want to play this in Standard. It seems very weak to me in a lot of matchups that are slow. Next up, 3-mana 0/4 Witch's Cauldron. It's an epic, and after a friendly minion dies, add a random shaman spell to your hand. So, decks you would want to play this in. Really fast token-based decks. So, think like Aggro Paladin, think Aggro Druid, mid-range Paladin maybe. Then it becomes a question of whether... I think that Aggro Druid's probably the best fit for it. Potentially like a token Druid list, but Aggro Druid would be where I could see this card being played. Then it becomes a question of whether the random shaman spells are worth it. And I think that it is a really good fit in Aggro Druid if you do even want to run the card, because you have single target buffs and AoE buffs, so Witch's Cauldron can become like a 1/5 or a 2/6 and then trade as well. But that being said though, you have to calculate what the average shaman spell is really worth in the deck, right? And whether this deserves a slot and whether you think it's worth 3 mana to play. Answer is usually going to be no. But maybe you figure out on average, like shaman spells are aggressive enough, stuff like Crackle, Lightning Bolt, Bloodlust, fit your deck's game plan that it's worth it to run. I don't know. I'll probably mess around with it a little bit. It seems like a fun card. Just because of that, I'll give it a neutral. But I don't think that this is really that strong at all. So it's basically just like 2 thumbs down, but I think it'll be fun, so I'm giving it neutral. A little bit biased because it's a fun card. Next up, Wing Blast, 4-mana rare hunter spell. Deal 4 damage to a minion. If a minion died this turn, this costs 0. So this is your cool removal card for mid-range and control hunter. Spell hunter as well will probably use this too, as this is actually a really strong spell. 1 mana, deal 4 damage is nuts. And even in the odd case that you don't have a... it's not going to be odd, but in the case that you don't have a minion dying this turn, you're not like super upset about paying 4 mana, deal 4 damage. Think about how often you kill command something for 3 and you're okay with it. So for me, Wing Blast is just a really solid card. That being said though, it doesn't really fit any archetype super well, besides Spellhunter, and Spellhunter and Wild's not really a thing right now. So I would say Wing Blast is actually a really good card, but not fitting for the current metagame, so I'll give it neutral. Reset my throat, baby. Let's go. Next up is Rat Trap. It's 2-mana epic hunter spell, or sorry, hunter secret. Read secret after your opponent plays 3 cards on a turn, summon a 6/6 rat. I think this card's really good, but it's only going to be really good when it's unexpected. It's not a really good secret that you want to be running as like a 1 or 2 of in your deck all the time. Rat Trap, when you're playing fast hunter decks, is going to be one of those cards that you just like slot in randomly, out of the blue, when people have forgotten about it, that you're going to shit on people with it. Especially when you're playing Aggro Hunter, man. Getting that 6/6 is going to be nuts. But the thing is, there's going to be times that people just forget that this is a card and not play around it. It's one of the beauties of Wild. When the card pool gets increased significantly, a lot more secrets are introduced. and they become really hard to remember, especially for players playing on mobile, players who just don't use Deck Tracker and have like an extension to help with secrets, players who are just like a little bit lazy and not paying a lot of attention. So like, you know, a month or two after the expansion comes out, I think Rat Trap's going to be really sleeper a lot of the time, and going to be one of those really good cards to slot in your Aggro Hunter decks, Seeker Hunter deck, you know, Spell Hunter deck, all those decks it'll be really good in. But I don't think it'll be super good all the time, because it's pretty easy to play around, and a lot of decks just play 1 or 2 cards on curve anyways, so this is only going to really interrupt like Combo Priest, for example, super early. But I think that, yeah, the card's really good and definitely has potential. But I don't think it's going to be super good right off the bat. I think it'll be one of those cards that's good. And it gets really, really good later down the road. So for me, I'm just going to give it 1 thumb up, not 2. But I think Rat Trap's an awesome card, and I'm definitely going to mess around with it a ton. Next up, Holy Water. 5 mana rare spell for Priest. Deal 4 damage to a minion. If that kills it, add a copy to your hand. So, this is 5 mana, which is pretty overpriced for the cost. Obviously, getting a copy of a minion in your hand is really good in value games. That being said, in Wild, I feel like this isn't really that good. Only deck I can think that could potentially even run it be like a Reno Priest or a Control Priest list. I mean, in like slow matchups, like if you know you're playing Reno Priest and you're going to play against another Reno deck, sure, Holy Water is good because you can Holy Water like Kazakus or a Bran or something that's really strong. But I think in general, this card's just too weak to be played because of the mana cost attached to it. It's just a little bit too high for the effect. When you're paying 5 mana for something in Wild, when you're playing like a Priest deck, you want it to be like Excavating Evil Man, like deal 3 damage to all minions, make your opponent's board screw off. And you don't want to replace something like an Excavated Evil with a Holy Water, because then when you get Living Mana'd, you're getting like a treant back instead of clearing the entire board. So for me, Holy Water is not too playable. It will have niche scenarios when it's good, and it is a cool card. I think it's interestingly designed where you do get a copy of a minion if it does die. And it's removal that's not based on dealing... It's single target removal that's not based on, like, you know, a minion being 2 or less or 3 or more. Or 5 or more, sorry. So there's no, like, the 3 or less or 5 or more. So there's this plays around the 4 attack sweet spot, which is really sweet as well for Priest. That sentence was really hard for me. But I think it's cool for that part, as you can deal with 4 attack minions with this. But that being said, I don't think it's super valuable right now, or going to be super good. So for me, Holy Water, 1 thumb down. Next up, 4 mana 2/2 Rogue Weapon, I assume? Spectral Cultist. Lifesteal, whenever you play a card from another class, gain 1 durability. 100 dust. 2 thumbs down. Next up, Bog Shaper, 7 mana 4/8. Whenever you cast a spell, draw a minion from your deck, and it's an elemental and a shaman card. So what Bog Shaper tells me right away is this is actually a really cool card because it allows you to tutor cards from your deck. That being said, though, it's a very expensive card to be able to do that, but I see Bog Shaper right away just being played in, you know, a control shaman deck with few really strong minions that you would want to draw. Different than Malisham. Malisham is the second deck I see being played in, with like Barnes and Mali Emperor only, so just like 4 minions with a Bog Shaper, maybe 2 Bog Shapers, to draw your cards. But this adds consistency to your deck if you have a ton of spells and a few minions, because you get to your combo cards really quickly with this. If you just need to draw, like, say, the Mali or the Barnes to win the game, it's like, okay, Bog Shaper, Lightning Bolt face, thank you for the Mali or the Barnes, appreciate it. That being said, that's not always going to work, and it might not even be necessary, but it's really sweet that Shaman has the option to now do this, where you can go ahead and just say, hey, okay, I'm going to trade one of the spells for, you know, my good combo minion is going to win me the game. It's really sweet that we do get tutoring for the combo decks, because one of the problems is sometimes you just don't draw stuff, so... You know, if you're somebody who decides, you know, I need to just draw Barnes or Melee more often, then you can just slam Bog Shaper in your deck, and there you go, get some consistency added, which is sweet. And I think it's really cool just to have the option to do that, and it adds extra depth to deck building, which I think is really, really important, and will reward the people who decide to do that in the certain metagames when it's necessary. So for me, Bog Shaper is a card that gets big 2 thumbs up, because I think it's really cool, and definitely could be viable in specifically Mali Shaman, potentially Control Shaman. So, yeah, you get the okay hand. I think it's good. Next up, 3 mana 2/4 Duskbad Battlecry. If your hero took damage, just turn summon 2/1/1 bats, and it's a beast. So this is very similar to a 4 mana card that was released in Kobolds and Catacombs. So we can reference that, the card's name is... I'm stalling while I search for it. I'm in the wilds, so it's taking a lot longer. Grim Necromancer. So it's a 4-mana 2/4 Battlecry summon 2/1/1 skeletons, which was run in Zoo for a little while, but it's cut. So Dustbat, obviously, 3 mana is a lot more accessible, but its effect's not guaranteed. You have to take damage in your turn, which means you're going to have to commit more than 3 mana crystals worth of stats. So you're going to have to go like turn 4, Kobold Librarian and Dustbat, which is obviously better than just Grim Necromancer, but adding a requirement to this card makes it a lot tougher to pull off. So I'm personally not too optimistic about it, even though you are running stuff like Vulgar Homunculus and Flame Imp as well as Kobold Librarian Zoo. It's just kind of a tough effect to pull off, and one that might just like not really be worth it, and you might just want to be running Imp Gang Boss, which will generally get you 2 1/1 tokens anyways. And as a demon too, added synergy is really big in that deck. Yeah, it's just big. So you have stuff like Demon Fire and the +3/3 potion, which really help you in Lockless. So for me, Dustbat's an interesting card and probably relevant in Standard, but in Wild, it's 1 thumb down for me. Next up is Deathweb Spider, 5 mana epic card with 4/6 stat line, and its Battlecry. If your hero took damage this turn, gain lifesteal. It's a beast. So in a similar note to Duskbat, this card just really isn't good enough in my opinion. It's a 4/6 with lifesteal situationally, so its stat line's not terrible, but you gotta ask, like, how good is a lifesteal in these decks? If you're continuously taking damage, yes, it's good, but the thing is, it's not strong enough. A 4/6 isn't really that powerful, especially because you can't just play this on turn 5 and get the effect active. It's really tough. Actually, you can if you have the next card that I'm going to talk about, but Deathweb Spider for me in Wild, just 2 thumbs down. Not much to talk about. It's not strong enough. Next card is Blood Witch, which is a 4 mana 3/6, and it reads at the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to your hero. So this enables stuff like the Dustbat and the Deathweb Spider, but it's a 4 mana 3/6, which isn't that good. It's not strong enough on curve. So and you're also required to have the Blood Witch and then the synergy cards attached to it. And the issue is what you're getting for, you know, buying into the synergy isn't as good as what you could get if you were buying into like Demon Synergy with Void Callers and stuff and big potions that hit your opponent in the face. So for me, you know, the start of your damage, start of your turn, deal damage synergy cards. Just thumbs down, man. They're not strong enough. Next up is Dire Frenzy, a 4 mana hunter spell. It's a common. Give a beast +3/3, shuffle 3 copies into your deck with +3/3. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier with Tuxmonger, because it is synergy for the 1-cost minions. Both of them are. And basically the combo is you run Stone Tusk Boar in your deck, and then you shuffle more Stone Tusk Boars in your deck, and then you draw more Stone Tusk Boars with Tolvir Wardens. So if you do that, then you're going to have a bunch of 4/4 boars charging into your opponent's face, which definitely isn't bad. That being said, you don't have to use Dire Frenzy on a boar. It's just good when they have charge, right? You can also use it on stuff like Savannah Highmane in value matchups, and get 5 Savannah Highmanes in a game, which is actually pretty good. You can also use Dire Frenzy in Kathrina Hunter decks, so Kathrina Winter Whisper, and use it on stuff like Charged Devilsaur. So you get a bunch of Charged Devilsaurs, and you can just go face them when you do pull them from Kathrina. That being said, you only have 1 Kathrina, and you have a bunch of Charged Devilsaurs, so maybe not the best idea. King Crush, we'll say King Crush. So instead of King Crush being a 9 mana 8/8, it's now a 9 mana 11/11. A little bit better. And having a bunch of them consistently is actually pretty strong, because then you can just start dragging stuff base, and if you do that, you're gonna win pretty often. Really flexible card with a super good effect. That being said, the effect doesn't come into play immediately, and you don't get the +3/3 worth of value out of the 4 mana card initially. So it's gonna be one of those cards that's more relevant in a metagame that is just slower. One that doesn't have Naga Giants Warlock that you have to really play around and stuff. Can't slot Dire Frenzy in your deck if that's a deck, so if the Naga Sea Witch change gets reverted, please revert it, Blizzard. Everybody will be happy. And Nerf Barnes too while you're at it. Then the card will actually be decent, I think. It's not going to be good in your aggro matchups. Maybe giving +3/3 to a beast is how Master buffed will be good. And don't get me wrong, it potentially could be. And game saving. In general, it won't be though. It will be getting against decks like Cube Lock though. Slow decks, you know, that take time to build up their combos. Having consistent curves of beasts that are buffed up is really strong because they have to consistently remove stuff. Mid-range Hunter is really good at just curving out. And if you have Dire Frenzy, then, I mean, that's 3 more minions with buffed Stouts that, you know, are going to continue allowing you to have some threats and playing them against your opponent, hitting them in the head. So I think Dire Frenzy in the current meta is unfortunately 1 thumb down. I think in a slower meta game, Dire Frenzy is at least 1 thumbs up, potentially 2. Really cool card. I'm a big fan of it. Thank you for showing Hunter some love. Next up, this is going to be the last card today. Swift Messenger, 4 mana, 2/6 with Rush. Each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health. Swift Messenger sucks. It's just a vanilla Rush card. Not good enough to be running in your decks in Wild. Sorry for the suspense, but yeah. It's one of those where it's just not powerful enough in my opinion. The stat line's just kind of bad. You can compare it to like Militia Commander, but Militia Commander is a 5/5 with Rush, which is a lot better than a 2/6. So you can trade with Militia Commander really well and it'll still live. 2/6, not so much. This card's just really not that good. And if it's a 6/2, then it just dies right away. Which sometimes is fine. It's like a fireball that you can trade with, but it's not consistent. It's not strong. Good arena card, I guess, but not good in Wild. 2 thumbs down, baby. Let's go. Thanks for checking out the 3rd edition of my Witchwood card reviews. I'll be coming at you guys with the rest of the cards pretty soon. If you guys like the video, smash the like button, leave a comment if you disagree with anything. Feel free to check your boy out on Twitch. If you got that Twitch Prime, smash that sub button on my stream. Appreciate that stuff. You guys help me pay for expenses. And yeah, live. Thanks for keeping the lights on, boys. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for watching. Everybody have a great day. Control out.